one question I did want to answer is, where's this whole channel kind of headed? So we recently hit 30,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel, so I thought it could be kind of a fun-ish idea to do kind of like a 30K subscriber Q&A type video. So here are some of your burning questions, and mind you, this isn't really like a prepped answer kind of response. I'm just reading these questions and just kind of answering off the cuff. Forgive me if I don't sound like super eloquent. First question, what do you suggest to someone who wants to approach game dev in 2024? Do you have some tips in regards to the creation of the images that will be used in the game? So the first part of that question is just to approach game dev in 2024. There's plenty of tutorials to start learning how to code or to start creating pixel art or 3D models. Pretty much everything you can do for free, so you don't really have to pay for any courses. I studied computer science in college, so I already knew how to code, so it was mostly just kind of shifting to understand the Unity engine and some of the, programming paradigms they use in that. And then for the latter half of that question, do you have some tips in regards to the creation of the images that will be used in the game? This kind of sounds like a leading question to like, is AI okay to use for images in games? Personally, I think AI is okay if you're doing like prototyping. I also really believe in supporting artists, and there's plenty of really talented artists out there that are looking for opportunities if you have kind of the funds. If you don't, again, you can kind of learn or teach yourself. So that's kind of where I lean. Okay, so what is your favorite part of game dev and what is your least favorite part? So I think my favorite part is actually like thinking of a aspect of the game or like a feature and actually being able to program that feature in the game and then see it working. It's kind of like adult Legos, so I think that's like super fun. My least favorite part, I gotta say, is I don't love doing kind of the art side of it. I'm just not very good at it, so I try to, again, like work with artists who are actually good at that, so I don't have to focus on that part. Additionally, I mean, I don't love fixing bugs, and it gets frustrating if something's not working correctly, but it's all kind of, the problem solving aspect that comes with it. So I think there's parts about that I like and that I don't like. Next question is, how has been developing your game? Was it fun or not fun? I think it's generally been pretty fun. Again, I don't think anything is always 100% fun or 100% not fun. You just kind of look for, is this 80% fun? Do I like 75% of what I'm doing? And I think for game dev, at least the game that I'm working on, Castlemancer, I probably wouldn't be working on it if I didn't think it was at least a little bit fun. So yeah, I think it's been pretty good time, but sometimes frustrating. Next question is, what are some other devlog series you enjoy on YouTube? Any of those games coming out you're excited about? So I love a lot of the other game developer type YouTubers. They make great devlogs. I really got into the whole game dev sphere from creators like devduck. I think he makes amazing devlogs. I also really like AIA's devlog series. They're super entertaining, great programmer, great video creator, just awesome stuff. I also really like Game Maker's Toolkit. He does fantastic videos about kind of like video essays of different features or game design philosophies, as well as he was designing his own Untitled Magnet game. I don't think it's called that anymore, but I really, really like his devlog series as well. And if I'm excited about any of the games coming out, honestly, I am kind of bad in that sense where I usually kind of stick to like one game that I'm playing currently, because otherwise I don't have too much time to try out many different games. One of the games I tried out recently from, like kind of an indie studio was Peglin. Amazingly designed game, super fun. Same thing with Backpack Hero, an amazing game. Really, I'm honestly so jealous that someone designed a game like this because it's just so fun. I also play a lot of World of Warcraft and Helldivers 2 recently, so those are kind of the games that I've been focusing on, and unfortunately I don't get a ton of time to try out new ones, but I'd like to. So maybe like if a lot of these game developers that I just mentioned on YouTube, if they mention their games coming out, who knows, maybe I'll give it a good try. How many hours a day do you on average spend making the game? This is a big varying kind of topic. Some days it's 4 to 5 hours, some days it's 1 hour, sometimes it's none, sometimes it's more, whatever it is. Kind of fluctuates a lot based on what I'm doing. So if I have to make a YouTube video, I obviously have to shift my time away from the game to doing video production and editing and stuff like that. I also have a full-time job, so sometimes after I work a full day of work and then go to the gym and then make dinner, I'm just exhausted and I really don't want to think about coding more. So I think it kind of varies, but I try to do a little bit of work. I try to do like at least 1 hour per day. Sometimes I don't hit that, sometimes I do much more, but that's kind of what I try to shoot for at the least. And then what's your fave IDE? So IDE, for those that don't know, is just kind of like an interface that you program in or application that you program in. Personally, I really like Visual Studio, so that's kind of a full IDE offered by Microsoft. Again, I think it's the default one that they use in Unity. I think you can connect any of them though. I also really like just Visual Studio Code, so the more lightweight version of that. Next question is, have you made some game development goals? If so, then can you list some of your short and long-term goals? As part of this question, I'm curious if you are planning a business around this. Yeah, that's a really good question. So some of the goals or short-term, long-term goals, obviously, the long-term goal is I want the game to release and be a success, and then I can release updates and DLCs or, you know, fun new things, kind of like Stardew Valley in that sense, where there's, you know, consistent updates, or Terraria, where the fan base is really active in kind of the feedback that they get. So that's kind of the ideal. I would absolutely love that. I think Castlemancer, the game I'm working on, I've been trying to design it in such a way that it would work really well with additional content. It doesn't need it, but I think there's a lot of different areas to expand because it is kind of like a roguelike deck builder type strategy game, and you can kind of do almost like infinite iterations and adding new content onto the base game with new updates. So that would be kind of a long goal. Short goal, I want to have a really fun playable demo that's out that I can, you know, bring to conventions. I think that would be super fun. Like, I live in Seattle and PAX West is out here, so if I could set up a booth and come to PAX West, you can meet me and we could play the game. You can give me some feedback. So the demo, a really polished, solid demo that I would feel really proud of, is kind of more in the short-term sense. Additionally, I kind of want to continue growing this YouTube channel that's a little bit away from kind of the game dev sphere, and then planning a business around this. So I actually already do have a business set up in the state of Washington. It's called Rainy Sunday, and that's mostly just to have an LLC around the YouTube channel and eventually the game, and, you know, that brings certain like legal protections, also gives you some level of professionalism or authority if you're working with sponsors or publishers or other type of companies. Even though I am one person, just having an actual registered business, I feel like adds some credibility to it. So the next question is doing game dev and YouTube at the same a good idea to get viewers? You mentioned it takes a lot of time, but that time gets a few more people to notice your project, right? So yeah, another great question. So do I think it's a good thing to do game dev and YouTube at the same time? So I do think it can get a lot of attraction to your game, but it depends on the audience. So for example, the viewers of this channel might more be game developers, and obviously game developers do play video games, but obviously you want your audience to primarily be gamers, people who consume video games instead of usually make them. So if you're making very in-depth technical devlogs, I'm sure it'll help get some traffic to your game, but also it might not be to the, you know, totally correct audience. I feel like there's two different types of game dev YouTubers. So there's one who are game developers first and YouTubers second, and then there's YouTubers first, game developers second. So I consider myself in the second category. I had the YouTube channel before I got into game dev. I get a lot of fulfillment out of creating videos, about planning videos and thinking about different ideas, fun things for the YouTube channel, and the game dev part of it is second to that. So I obviously want to release the game. I love working on it, but I consider YouTube my main thing and game dev as a side thing that I also like making videos about. I think a lot of other game developer YouTubers, they make the games and the YouTube is all built around the game. And the YouTube might even have the same name as their gaming company or the name of their game, for example. I don't think there's really a downside to making videos other than the time commitment. So, okay, I want to know if you suggest working on big game projects that take multiple years or a lot of smaller projects. I want to know because I'm trying to decide whether to start work on a big RPG or a few other games. So I think conventional knowledge around this would say do the smaller projects, and I tend to agree with that. I made the mistake as well with my first project called Muster. That was kind of like a strategy RPG, and that I quickly realized was going to take way too much time for one person. I would suggest, as many others have said before across YouTube, start with smaller projects, build them up, learn what it's like to actually release a game, all of the little things, start getting user feedback. Building the actual game is one thing, but you don't realize how much time it takes to actually finish up the game. So adding features and stuff, you know, I can go in and crank out features and I can add code or whatever I need to add, but actually making it so it's finished and not in like a testing phase takes a lot of time. Are there any lessons you've learned in your career as a software developer or as a computer science student that have carried over into your game dev projects? Yeah, great question. Obviously, I was a computer science student in college. I then was in a software engineering type role at Microsoft. I'm now doing more technical program management at Google. And obviously, like, it's all very technical work, so that did transition or translate to game dev a lot. I obviously knew how to code, and I worked at Microsoft, which their primary language there is C#, and Unity uses C#, so I kind of got the benefit just by proxy or by like luck of just working there that happened to be the language I was very familiar with at the time. So I definitely do think it helped. So those are most of the direct questions you guys asked. And then here are some of the other types of questions I get in the comments section of a lot of different videos. So questions like, is it still worth it to study computer science? There's been a lot of talk about this, especially with the continued development of AI and people wondering if software engineers or software developers are still going to be as in demand as they have been historically. And I do think generally computer science is still a good subject to study in college. You know, I think it gives you a really good foundation for going into a lot of different fields, being able to think programmatically about something. I think like if you study math as well, math or physics or a lot of these very hard kind of science-y areas, I think they give you a very good foundation that you can apply to business or different science fields or engineering fields or even finance, for example. So with the whole world getting more and more involved in tech, I do think computer science is still a relatively good major to study. Again, it depends on where your interests lie. Many people are studying computer science recently, so there's obviously an influx of graduates from that. So I know the job market might be a little bit tough, but at least from my perspective, from a theoretical level, I mean, if everything's becoming AI and AI centered and AI development and everything has an app and everything has a chatbot and everything is built in VR and AR and, you know, all of these games are getting released, like, it obviously takes a lot of technical people to create all of these different products. And let's say you work in just some, you know, brick and mortar store, you know, if they have to adopt AI or VR or AR or whatever the new technology it is, kind of like websites were with the onset of the internet, you know, it's going to require technical people to understand the implementation or integration of these systems or platforms into existing businesses. So I think computer science is a solid way to kind of maybe, you know, future-proof, potentially, but, you know, don't take anything I say with strong vindication. Now, if you're looking to learn some of those foundational computer science and math skills that can help you with indie game development or really any side project, you should check out this video's sponsor, Brilliant. Brilliant is a learning platform designed to be uniquely effective. They take a first principles approach that helps you build understanding from the ground up. Each lesson is filled with hands-on problem solving that lets you actually play with the concepts. Plus, all content on Brilliant is crafted by an award-winning team of teachers, researchers, and professionals from places like MIT, Caltech, Duke, Microsoft, Google, and more. Brilliant helps build your critical thinking skills through problem solving, not memorizing, which makes you just generally a better thinker. Learning a little every day is one of the most important things you can do, both for personal and professional growth. That's one of the reasons I really love game development. Brilliant helps you build real knowledge in minutes a day, with fun lessons you can do whenever you have the time. It's basically the opposite of mindless scrolling. Also, Brilliant's growing number of programming courses are a great way to build foundations and learn real-world applications like I was mentioning before. To try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/byteofmichael or click on the link in the description below. You'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. Thank you to Brilliant for supporting the channel. Another question I get a lot is like, is it worth it to go to college? This is a super hard question to answer, and I don't really want to give an affirmative answer because I don't want people being like, you told me I should or shouldn't go to college, and then I did that, and then it didn't work out. I don't want to say anything specific like that. College can be very expensive. It can also be affordable depending on where you go. I really enjoyed my time in college. Some people absolutely hate college and they just want to go straight into the workforce. There are definitely a lot of pros and cons to both perspectives. I think it really depends on who you are as a person, what you want to do. Ultimately, going to college, I think, is a very personal decision. I don't want to give an affirmative answer to this because it is a really, really big decision and it can have a large impact on what your career looks like, what your financial future looks like. That's kind of just my opinion on it. Another question I get is kind of how you started learning game development. So that was, again, I just kind of started getting videos recommended on YouTube. I got really interested in seeing how all of this programming knowledge that I had could be used in kind of a more creative setting instead of just building backend infrastructure or like web apps, for example. I could actually build a game. I've always loved playing video games, so it seemed like a very natural kind of integration. And that's kind of how I just got into this whole world, just looking at tutorials, looking at different forums for different programming problems. And then eventually with the onset of ChatGPT and large language models, that has been super helpful if I'm not sure how to do something, or if I just want to quickly find syntax for something, or how to optimize certain functions or features. That has been really useful for me too. And then lastly, one question I did want to answer is, where's this whole channel kind of headed? Now, for the last 2-ish years, I've primarily made more game development focused videos. I got really into game development and I loved being able to share that with you and bring you along for the development. Either it's small games that I worked on, or now Castlemancer, for example, or just tips and tricks I picked up along the way. I really liked making those types of videos. Before that, I primarily made more computer science-y or career type of videos, which I also really liked making. So going into the future, I still really want to make game development videos, as that's an area I'm still really interested in and I really like doing, but I also kind of want to expand into tangential kind of areas too. I always pictured myself as a YouTube creator or video creator first and a game developer second, or a software engineer second. And I kind of want to keep it that way. Now, I love game development and I want Castlemancer to be the best game possible, but also I really, really like making these videos, and I get a lot of satisfaction from, hitting publish on that video. So I was thinking about expanding into different areas like productivity, for example. Like my most recent video before this one was kind of a more productivity typed focused video, which I think did pretty good for my channel. So I'm happy to see that kind of got a good reception, but I want to make it just more broadly consumable. So even if you do like game dev or you don't like game dev, all of the videos that I do release should be applicable to you. So that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. Let me know what you guys think. That's all from me. We do a bad British accent at the end of every video. My name is Michael. Consider giving me a subscribe, and hopefully I see you in another one. Bye-bye.